Hello and welcome to Daddy Daughter Fodder.
Where conversation meets culture. Everybody say hi to Ogden.
Ogden. We're
Hi,
welcoming Ogden back to our studio here.
show.
Ogden, what are we talking about today?
Did you hear him?
Oh, I did. So Ogden said that he believes it's absolutely reasonable and rational to believe that you can have morals, that you can have absolute morals without God.
Oh, Ogden.
Ogden says it is not necessary to have a moral giver, a moral
Epicenter.
Oh, good word. Nice. A moral epicenter in order to have morals in a culture. So, Ogden, we're going to debate you.
That's right.
Lauren, Elise, you have been in classes at your school.
Yes.
Where you've been tried, where indoctrination has occurred. What did they call that? What was it they attempted to do to God in your...
Okay, so first day ethics class, I swear.
Ethics class.
Ethics class.
Is that a requirement in schools?
I think you can swap it out for philosophy or something else, but actually I think it was a form of philosophy. I really don't remember. All I know is that ethics, it seemed like it was going to be the easiest class, and so I took it.
So you or your kids are probably going through this class. So what do they tell you?
So, secular ethics. First of all, that feels like an oxymoron to me, but I digress. The point is,
Ogden agrees.
Ogden.
Ogden, okay.
Disappointed mother over here. Anyway, so basically, killing God was the first chapter. So it was possible to absolutely kill God because they brought up this idea of you can know something is moral, or you can see the morality in something outside of the context of the Bible, outside of the context of God. And I remember thinking, that's really weird. That's just really weird, because like, where do we get it? And someone else told me they're like, oh yeah, you just do the most good. I was like, okay, what is good? Just not suffering. Okay, is suffering bad? Suffering bad. Well, suffering's always bad. Are you sure? Can you objectively tell me that? Can you tell me that one person is always going to say suffering is bad no matter what, objectively? I don't know. It's just a really big rabbit hole that I really like talking about, because, again, once you kind of get rid of this idea of God, once you kind of put that away in a box, then the floodgates open. Katie barred the door. I know you love that phrase, but like, the point is, there is just...
No standard.
There's no standard.
No
Anything says
standard.
and goes, and it's why we in this nation thinks it's totally okay with the slaughter of 60 million babies.
Okay, which leads to a lot of other ideas. So let's look at this philosophically for just a moment. Okay, you cannot have wickedness or evil without good. Why?
Because there would be nothing there would be no standard. There'd be nothing to compare it to. Like, why would, how would you even know?
You couldn't have an opposite or an antithesis without a standard to begin with. So when people say, well, why did God create evil? Well, evil wasn't created. Evil is a twisting of good. Again, you can't have objective evil, objective wickedness. You can't say that's wrong unless there is an objective right. Mm-hmm. So, and this is great in philosophy, but when you try to have morals without God, what happens is you try to define those, and you have to steal from God. You have to take from objective good. Because we would say, oh, murder is bad and it's bad universally. Why?
Because God said so.
Because life and living is good, and for you to take it is bad. So you see.
Look, Ogden's saying something. Do you hear him?
I cannot. I'm deaf to him.
I hear him.
He's on my bad side.
But you need a book. You need God to tell you that murder is wrong.
Oh, okay, good.
Ogden.
So Ogden is arguing for the objectivity. In other words, there can be only a social acceptance of what's good and bad, no real good or bad that doesn't objectively change. So that's why you say, do you need God to decide morality in order for a society to decide and live a moral life? You need God to have objective standards that don't change, that are consistent with reality. So when we look at the idea of morals without God, when we look at the idea of excluding God from the equation, what do we lose?
We lose it's a very everything at that point, because we lose the ability to reason, we lose logic, we lose empathy, we lose all of these different things because we've no longer got this thing that's kind of holding us up, that's kind of holding the world.
So why do people want to remove God from the equation?
Accountability.
Accountability.
I stole your thunder, but I'm taking it.
She stole it. She jumped right ahead, but that's it.
I win.
Because there is no accountability. If we make it all subjective, something happened in the Bible. It was the book of Judges. It was an era where people did what was right in their own eyes. They decided good and bad, which was the original lie, according to the book. The original lie was that you can do what you want because you're kind of a little God unto yourself. That's what happens when you remove God from the equation. You remove the plumb line. And societies will inevitably move in a way that are self-destructive. When you do that, every society that has embraced this becomes self-destructive. At some point in the history of that nation, it has self-imploded. That's why nations rise and fall like they do. When the morality shifts, then the volatility increases, because there's no standard. So when we remove God from the equation, it becomes something that is subjective. Nowhere to put my anchor on my boat, and ultimately the boat will sail off into troubled waters.
And everything is okay and permissible and acceptable.
So did you argue this in your philosophy class?
You know, I actually think this is the one class, I'm going to be real with you, I have taken many classes, okay? I'm like 70 some odd numbers and 70 some credit hours, and I never read the book. I don't care about the book. I really do not. I just want to get my degree and get out, and I don't care about general education courses. But this is the one class, I'm not gonna lie, that I really looked at the book and I was like, you know what, I'm going to scrutinize this to the very small degree. And the first thing that we did at the very beginning was we used the Bible, because you better believe that we used the Bible in an ethics class, if only just to disprove it, if you will. I remember calling you. I called you, and I was like sitting in the middle of a Barnes & Noble, losing my absolute mind.
Her lifeline.
Yeah, literally. I'll call you over anything. He knows this. And I'm like, listen, they are taking it so far out of context. The Bible's so far out of context, I can't even function anymore. Like they're moving on a false narrative, and it's creating all of these different problems that were never there to begin with, because it's like the mental gymnastics to just prove something that's so obviously right, wrong. And it just like, it's giving me a headache. And so many people like to tell me like, Ogden, stop. Ogden, you are not. He says,
"'Cause you were raised this way.
Oh,
that's
'cause you were
why
raised
you
this way.
think what you think."
You know, Ogden, you are being so not fair to me. That is marginalization. You don't think that I can think for myself and that I have a mind of my own? That is very rude of you. I, in fact, can. And my dad and I actually don't agree on everything.
Well, we do not agree until
we don't agree on everything when it comes to, we agree on everything when it comes to a moral standard.
Now, something that she said is something that you absolutely need to be aware of. It's called the straw man. Mm-hmm. So in this particular class, what I heard you just say is that they would take the Bible, they would take iterations or things out of context, and they would set up an easily blown over straw man that they could destroy and make an uneducated or uninformed student see it from that perspective.
And if you weren't paying
and we do that too. Well, we're guilty.
But if you weren't paying, the problem is if you weren't paying attention to that class, and I had somebody in that class whose mission and life's goal and purpose was to just make me look like an idiot. I'll never forget that. But if you look at that from like a standard of you don't know anything going in, if you don't have a presupposition, if you've never cracked open a Bible in your life, you are so inclined to believe because of the way they've worded things, the way they've done things. And this book, it's not a very long book. I just remember going through it and going like, okay, there is just no reason. There is no rhyme or reason for why they're doing it like they're doing it, if anything, just to prove it wrong. Like they just have a prejudice against it. Not that they really wanted truth or they really wanted to know it was right and moral and ethical, but the fact that they just wanted to prove it wrong.
Well, here's what I would say to Ogden. Is Ogden and to the perpetuators of those particular classes and the philosophy that you can have morality, consistent, good, healthy, so societal morality without God. I would say this: objectively, give me an instance. See, when we talk in terms of truth and reality. One thing that we really share is we are truth-oriented people. I'm not going to pretend that your philosophy is valid. I'm not going to entertain it until it works out in reality. And I think what happens, Ogden and a lot of people, even you may be watching me going, I don't agree with this. You don't need God for morality. Well, here's the thing. Look around. Look historically. Look societally now at things that are going on. And you will prove over and over and over in reality why what we're saying is true. God sets a standard of morality that is for the benefit of humanity.
Yeah.
But we want to do it our way, and we suffer the consequences over and over and over. So instead of looking at God involved in morality as something that is confining and restricting and demoralizing and totalitarian, look at it as a daddy who wants good for his children. So there were certain standards that I set in the house to keep you from losing your mind, or if you lost your mind, that it wouldn't cost you too much or me too much. That's kind of the same thought. God really created us in his image because he wanted babies, not because he wanted drones to worship him. So he does give us free will. He does give us the opportunity to look rationally and see his way works and our way doesn't, and come to obvious conclusions. So Ogden just can't take his philosophy and apply it and see that it works, but he should be able to apply his philosophy and see all through society where it just doesn't work. Look, if it worked, you know what we'd be saying? Hey, you know what? The Bible is a farce. You know what? God, you really don't need it for true morality and a solid standard, but it doesn't work. Let me prove it. Are you ready? How many babies have died since abortion was made legal?
60 million.
In America alone. 60 million babies have died since abortion. Now, does God say don't make abortion legal or right or acceptable? He did. Very right off the bat, he said, you should not kill. Okay?
Don't murder
Very
people.
simple. I'm not trying to oversimplify.
Don't run around murdering people. What's wrong with you?
Don't murder people. How about this? Don't run off with somebody's wife. Oh, wow. That actually works in society. But if you don't have...
Y'all ain't ready for that conversation.
You're not. So let's end with this thought. Very often, people don't want God to be the source of morality because they don't want accountability. You said it earlier.
A standard.
A standard. I had one of my children say, if you wouldn't have made the rule, I would have never broken it. Yeah. I'm not saying that was you.
No, it wasn't me. It definitely was not me. I want to make that very clear. I am one of 4, okay?
Yeah.
Sure, you've only ever seen me, but like I promise, I am one of 4. There are like 3 other of these things running around. They're not like me, but going to that. Anyway.
Thank you for your time. I hope you have found some value in this. If you have, subscribe, share. We really want to get a voice of sanity out amidst the clutter of our culture.
I thought you were going to say chaos, but clutter of chaos.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.